Hey guys, so welcome back to Lex Reads. So in today's video, I actually wanted to talk about some authors that I read this year that were new to me. I had never either heard of them or I heard of them, but I had never read any of their books. And I had quite a few this year. Also too, I kind of read things out of my element. So let's just get started. So first was Pearl Cleage, What Looks Like Crazy on an Ordinary Day. Now Pearl Cleage is actually an author from back in the day. She has like over 10 books. She's known for her plays, and this book came out in the 90s and it was a sensation. It actually was an Oprah Book Club pick back in the 90s. And I had known of Pearl Cleage, but I had never read any of her books. And I read this and was just flabbergasted because it's so good. It's about a young Black woman that has been diagnosed with HIV. And she's trying to just navigate, her world, because this is just a whirlwind. You know what I mean? Can you imagine you're a young Black woman that has been diagnosed, and this is back, in the 90s, where it still was, stigmatized, and we didn't have all the research that we have now, so people are extremely prejudiced. And she talks about that in this book. But this, fantastic. Next is a mystery, and this was out of my comfort zone. I had never read a mystery book ever, and I read Dead Girls. This is a Harlem Renaissance mystery by Nikisha Afi. I read this for like Halloween because like mysteries are scary to me. Y'all know I don't do Halloween or scary stuff. So I was like, let me read this. I had this book first, Dead Girls, for like 2 years. And of course I got it because it said Harlem Renaissance, and y'all know that's my stuff. So read it and really enjoyed it. Got the second book and really enjoyed it. And the third book is going to come out July of next year. So I'm stuck with it now. Now, if I'm being honest with y'all, this mystery, you could figure out like the first maybe 50 pages. It's like, oh, you already kind of know who did it. And especially, I would say with the second book, it was like, oh, first 20 pages basically, but I still liked it. So recap, this girl, she is in her 20s. She was kidnapped when she was 16 years old, but she escaped, and she helped like 4 other girls escape. And when she gets older, she works at a club, and these Black girls, they come up missing. Then these Black girls come up missing, and then they come up dead, and she gets in trouble with the police. And the police is like, well, we won't let you go to jail unless you figure out who's killing these girls. And that's what she does. And it's the same thing for, the second book. So yeah, so that's like the main gist of it. But I really did enjoy this. Next is Asha, is it Bandel, Daughter, a novel. This was on my TBR for 2023. And I already knew this was going to be difficult because it's dealing with a young girl and her mother. The young girl was like misidentified and was murdered by a policeman. And you already know how I feel about women getting murdered. So that part was difficult. But the way that she came about the story was fantastic, because you have the young Black girl, she's, hospital bed, but her mom is reflecting on her life and how she got, from like point A to point B to right now sitting in this hospital, room with her daughter. And it was really, really good. The ending, I was like, oh, girl, seriously? Because I understand the mama was toe up. I mean, I couldn't even imagine having your daughter murdered, you know what I mean, by a police officer. Like, this girl, 20 years old in college, had such a bright future. So that mama was toe up and had every right to be. But it was like, girl, that's not gonna bring her back, baby. When I finished, I'm like, wait, no, that's not how it ended. And read like the past 10 pages again. I'm like, oh, seriously? So, I mean, it still was a good book. You did get closure. It's just an ending that you wouldn't expect to happen. And it's, like I said, again, it's like, baby, it's not gonna bring her back. But overall, still good. I will definitely be checking out more books by this author. Next is a slave narrative, and it is Jubilee by Margaret Walker. Now, this is her only full-length novel. I did not know that Margaret Walker was a poet. Always wanted to read this because I am a fan of slave narratives. Also, too, I wanted to see the comparison with Roots, because I know she did sue Alex Haley. And I mean, it's a slave narrative, so you're going to deal with brutality. You're going to, there's really no difference, if I'm being honest with you. But I really did enjoy this. I actually have a reading vlog on this, and this was so good. This is a conversational piece. Her dialogue is off the chain on this book. Also, this book was almost 500 pages. It's like 480 something. It did not read like that. It was a page turner. Especially, I would say, it took her a minute to get off that plantation, girl. But when she got off, even when she still was in the plantation, it still was good. But when she got off the plantation, it got like even better. But y'all, this is so good. Next is another slave narrative. It's A Woman of Endurance by, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce this name. I know she's Afro-Latino, and I did not know that Afro-Caribbean slavery started in Caribbeans before it made it to the U.S. Did not know that. So this book, obviously, like I said, it is a slave narrative, but instead of it being in like Virginia or Alabama or somewhere in the South, it's in Puerto Rico. And you have the main character, Polo. Polo was brutally beaten. She was trying to escape, and she goes to work at a sugar plantation. And because she's real black, y'all know they would segregate the, slaves. If you're real black and dark, you work in fields. If you're real light, you work in the big house. But because of her injury, she could not work in, the fields. She had to work in a big house. But this book has so many layers. I really did enjoy this. As you can see, I tabbed it to death. Also, this book, it didn't get a lot of praise. I didn't even know anything about this book. And I don't even know how I stumbled across it, but y'all know, like I said, I do really enjoy slave narratives. It can be difficult, but for some reason I do know how to navigate it. So yeah, but this was really good. I would highly encourage you guys to read this. And then lastly is Nobody's Magic by Destiny O. Birdsong. I think I also did a reading blog on this. First of all, I want to get this because the cover is just so fantastic. First, look at this cover. Unbelievable. I remember seeing this and I was like, I wanted to get it just because of the cover, but then when I read the synopsis, I was like, okay, I have to get it. So it's set in Shreveport, Louisiana. It's 3 stories, 3 girls, and they're all albino. Never read a story that the main characters are albino. And the first character, her name is Suzette. I really like Suzette. Suzette is a pampered 20-year-old girl. And something horrible happened to her when she was a child due to, her being albino. So her parents kind of shelter her, especially that daddy. He don't want nothing to happen to his princess, right? And she's like, Dad, I want to go to school. I want to be able to drive because, with albinism, you have a hard time seeing. And in comes a young man that actually works for her dad. And he kind of gets her out of her shell, kind of take her out a little bit. And then the next woman you have is Maple. Maple, she is facing tragedy because her mom was murdered. And she is grieving, just kind of don't know how to handle it, you know what I mean? So she's just trying to live her life. And then you have a grandmother that was horrible. Even when she was like younger, because she was albino, she would be like, keep her in the house or just say really mean things to her. So she don't feel her grandmama. And then lastly, you have Agnes. Because of her albinism, she's a very lonely person. And because she didn't have friends and is not around a lot of people, she really threw herself into education. So she got about like 5 degrees. And she meets a young man with a child that also is kind of, he got a little situation. He's kind of like a loner or whatever. So they end up meeting and talking and all of that. This was a really good story because you got 3 different perspectives. None of the women are related or anything like that. And it's almost like 3 short stories. It was just so good because I have never read a book, like I said, that the main characters are albino, and just to see what they go through and the prejudice and things like that. And the author is albino. So she knows firsthand, how it feels and all that. And again, this cover is just so pretty. Isn't this cover pretty? Like, you just want to showcase this in your library. So yeah, guys, that is it when it comes to new books that I read by new authors this year. I read quite a few. I'm always so hyped to find new Black authors that I haven't read or discovered because, I always mention the same people, okay? We know Tony, we know Alice, we know Maya. It's always a breath of fresh air to have, you know, new books by Black authors. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.